Hi there, Legal Paige listeners. This episode is very tailored to the beauty industry, so hair, makeup, lash extension artists alike, this one is for you. And even if you're not in that industry specifically, you may find what we're about to discuss extremely interesting. And today, I have my friend Tiyana Robinson with me to help us uncover the legal woes in the solopreneur beauty industry, especially since many beauty pros either come from the traditional cosmetology school background or have simply learned their craft themselves, such as makeup pros, and then decide to turn that passion into a lucrative side hustle. Now, before we get into things, let me tell you about Tiyana. She is an award-winning Washington, D.C.-based professional makeup artist and founder of Beauty Mogul University, where she teaches makeup artists and solo beauty pros how to diversify their income, create money on demand, and launch their digital beauty businesses by offering online classes, courses, and digital and physical products so they can make more money beyond their chair. She has been featured in Black Enterprise, Entrepreneur.com, Essence Magazine, and in 2020, she was included in the Roots Glow Up 50, an annual celebration of the Black tastemakers, trendsetters, and innovators, elevating the world of style, and in the same category as Rihanna, might I add. As a beauty mogul coach, she's helped hundreds of solo beauty pros double or triple their rates, grow their businesses to six figures, launch their own signature beauty products, level up their branding and stand out in their city, and become the go-to local beauty superstar for their signature service they provide. If that isn't a testament to all that Tiyana's going to bring to this episode today, I don't know what is. So without further ado, let's get going into this topic, friends. You're listening to the Legal Paige Podcast, where we chat about life and business with a legal twist. I'm Paige, attorney and photographer helping online businesses and creatives tackle their business dreams without breaking out in hives. No more legal mumbo jumbo. This podcast features simple, bite-sized advice that'll have you legally legit in no time. Are you ready? Let's get started. As a reminder, before we get into this episode, I am legally obligated to give my disclaimer. I am an attorney, but I am not your attorney. All legal information I talk about in this episode is intended for the masses and a large variety of different businesses. Please seek out another attorney in your city and home state if you need specific legal advice related to your unique business. Okay, let's get back to it. Friends, thanks again for listening to today's podcast. Tiyana is here with me to talk all about the hair and makeup industry, contracts, and some legal situations that you're probably going to want to avoid. Tiyana, thanks for joining us today.
Ooh, I am so excited to be here. It's been a minute. Like, we've been trying to get me on this podcast for a minute.
We have.
I'm so excited to be here.
When we say for a minute, we mean like 2+ years.
Listen.
It's just, we've both been so busy, but I could not be more excited for you to finally be on the Legal Paige podcast. So I know what you do in the hair and makeup industry and how much of a guru you really are. But I would love for you to give our listeners a little insight into your background and kind of all of the offerings that you do now for HMUAs in the industry.
Yeah. So my name is Tiyana Robinson. I always say this, I'm a regular schmegular working makeup artist. And I work with regular women doing makeup for their most special occasions, weddings and photo shoots and all those things. And so I got into the industry this year would be my 8th year. And I cannot believe I'm saying that, but it's been such an amazing journey in the industry. And I really got started after being laid off from what I thought was my dream job in marketing and sales. And so I was laid off and looking for my next thing. I always loved makeup. I was that girl that watched hours of YouTube tutorials and totally graduated from YouTube University. And I just kind of fell into doing makeup. I was out at a networking event with my husband and he introduced me to one of his friends. And she was like, "Oh my God, I always see your photos on Instagram. And I love the way that you do your makeup. Can you do my makeup for an event?" And I'm like, I'm bored, broke, need something to do. Why not?
I love it.
So I did her makeup and I loved it. And so I decided in that moment, I'm going to be a makeup artist. And within the first 2 years, I had built my business to 6 figures, which when you are a regular working makeup artist, working with the consumer market, that's not normal. It's not normal to grow that quickly. And so people started noticing and asking, what the heck was I doing to grow so quickly? How was I leveraging Instagram to consistently market my services to clients? How was I getting so booked up? And I really, quite frankly, got tired of answering the same questions over and over again. And so I dipped my toe into the online education space and never looked back. So in 2019, I founded Makeup Mogul University, which was exclusively for makeup artists. And I just filled that course with as much information as I could about how you could market yourself, how you could structure your business, how you could grow as a makeup artist. And then the pandemic hit. And for years, I had been screaming from the mountaintops, y'all, we got to start diversifying our income. We got to, start doing things beyond our chair. And I had been saying that before the pandemic. Then it hit and everybody started coming to me like, girl, you were right. So the audience in Makeup Mogul University expanded from just makeup artists to now we have hairstylists, estheticians, lash techs, nail techs. And really what we do inside of Beauty Mogul University, because we even changed the name to really reflect our family of students, is I help beauty pros become digital beauty moguls. So yes, I want you to make money from your services, but I want you to have a business that no matter what's happening in the world, what's happening in your life, whether you become a new mom like you, Paige, or whatever happens, you can still make money in your business. So I give them all the tools and resources that they need to market, to create funnels, to do all the things that they need to do to grow and thrive as a beauty pro. So that's what I'm doing now when I'm not making women in DC look and feel amazing.
I am dying, first of all, one day to have you do my makeup because
I would love that.
I don't know how to do makeup. I'm also a YouTube university graduate trying to figure out, I think we all are, right? Like YouTube is our generation of trying to figure out all of the things. And I even just went over to my parents' house this morning and told them well, just YouTube it. You can figure it out. And they just looked at me like deer in headlights. What are you talking about? But it's how we all learned. And I love that that's how you learned to build your business. And I also want to just touch on here. First of all, I had no idea you changed Makeup Mogul University to Beauty Mogul University.
I did.
And that is so smart because we're even getting questions here at the Legal Paige constantly for nail contracts, for esthetician contracts, for lash extension contracts, for hair extension contracts. That's one that just popped up last week in the inbox. And we are constantly having so many, contract templates on deck. So for all of you listening, they're coming, I promise. But I think what Tiyana is hitting on here is, I think hair and makeup is so well known, right? HMUA needs. I probably need to change a lot of our copy to beauty industry needs now that you said this. But I would love to know kind of if you could explain to people a little bit more. I'm sure there are beauty industry people here listening, right? But for other people listening as well, what type of clients do you serve? Because I was honestly kind of misinformed where I come from the wedding and event industry. And I realized that the beauty industry and particularly the makeup industry is so much bigger than just weddings and events. Yes. So what kind of stuff do you do makeup for? What do, is it primarily do your students primarily serve the wedding and event industry? Or is it halvesies with, news broadcasts, celebrity events? I don't know. You let me know because I feel like I only know what I know.
Right. And it's so funny because before I became a makeup artist, I had no idea of all the different lanes that you could actually take in our industry. So you could go into film and TV, you could do commercial work, you could do broadcast makeup. I mean, it is so vast. What you could just go into education, right? And the crazy thing is you can be a makeup artist and never touch the consumer market. So when I say consumer, I'm referring to regular women, right? Who just need makeup for their thing. you could have a whole career and like never ever deal with the consumer market. You could literally just be in
like a brick and mortar
production.
salon.
Yeah, that or production work, right?
Oh, okay.
And so you're only working with actresses or models or brands or things like that, right?
Cool.
So that has not been my experience. I only work with regular women. And so I'm very clear when I'm talking about, Beauty Mogul University, when I am talking to prospective students, like, film and TV, that's not my ministry. I can't tell you a thing about it because that hasn't been my experience. So I really focus on how do you grow and thrive working with everyday women, whether you want to be in the salon or you want to go out on your own and be totally freelance. It's a whole different thing from production, film, TV. Like, you really have to, if you want to go into that end of the industry, you really have to design your path in the career to create a portfolio that speaks to that, to network with those people. It really is a specific lane, and I have nothing to do with that.
Okay, that's really good to know. So like everyday, women, beauty industry folk is definitely the students that you serve. Do many of them though, like, are many of them freelancers? Like, do they still kind of freelance for weddings and events as well? Because those would be like everyday people, right? That need your services for a big event.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. So the students that I serve, they work with brides and, photo shoot, people who want to have their makeup done for photo shoots or family events, or maybe they have a special occasion that they just want to look and feel beautiful for. That is really the solo beauty pro that I work with, because you're really like building your business from scratch. You really have to understand how to identify your customer, how to tailor your services to them, how to market and attract to them. So it's a whole lane. And I've been seeing lately more salon beauty pros come in my way for business advice. But, my bread and butter and the people that I really kind of started out serving and supporting were people like me who were totally freelance and just figuring it out.
Cool. Yeah. And there's such a market for that online, particularly social media, but as well as a lot of them are so good at their craft, right? They just are, like you said, obsessed with makeup artistry or obsessed with hairstyling or obsessed with lash extensions. And that's what they do every day, all day. Yeah. But people lack in the marketing and business side of things. So
it's hard.
It is so hard. What?
And here's what's tricky about makeup specifically, because hair, like, you have to be licensed and you have to go to. But with makeup, a lot of states are deregulated. So I live in DC, and in the DMV area, so DC, Maryland, and Virginia, you actually don't have to be licensed to do makeup.
Right.
And so you literally can just buy makeup and be like, I'm a makeup artist. Like, there's no requirement to go to school to learn it. So like, literally, where do you go to learn the business side of being a beauty pro? So many of us just come in with pure passion, and we just have a heart for people. And then you get in it and you're inundated with all these things that you now have to think about when you're transitioning your passion into this profitable business. Like, now you've added a whole other layer of complexity to it that you probably weren't anticipating, like contracts, and how do you protect yourself and your business? And so that was the gap that I found that was not available. Luckily, I had this strong background in marketing and sales. So the marketing piece came really, really easily, but the actual like business structure and, how do you, the operations side of things and the customer service, that stuff didn't come as naturally to me. So I had to learn it over time. And as I learned things, I shared them and perfected them and just did what I could to spread the word to as many other of my fellow beauty pros as possible. But contracts is such a big thing because they not only protect you, but they protect your customer as well. So I'm excited to have that conversation about all the things that I've learned in my years of being a beauty pro.
Oh, absolutely. And you literally, you made me just think about this for makeup artists in particular, because they are kind of deregulated and oftentimes there isn't certifications or licensure requirements in various states or regions around the US. Some do, just FYI, some do. But this brought me back to a few weeks ago. My legal team and I were we're always revamping our contracts. We think about contracts as living documents, and things change and the industry changes, and we need to go back and modify them and tweak them. So we were particularly looking at a associate makeup artist contract that we actually just put out there, and it went live on the shop. But we had one of our associate attorneys that has a friend who is a makeup artist. And so it was fun because she was reaching out to her and like asking a bunch of questions, clarifying questions, so that we could put like the most beneficial legal language in this contract. And one of the things that this particular makeup artist said to my associate attorney is that, you know, it is deregulated. In my area, like I don't have to have a degree, a certification, anything, but I have learned that because of that, contracts are 10 times more important to my clients.
Important. Yeah.
Because I can't show them like a certification or a license, but I look incredibly professional as a makeup artist when I'm not just sending like a Venmo transfer request that you guys should not even do, because you can't do that unless you have Venmo business. But that's what a lot of the makeup artists do. And I think it does look unprofessional. And when you can show your clients an actual legitimate contract, they're going to feel a lot more protected and secure having you do their makeup.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to put that out there because you touched on it. So shifting now to contract talk, now that you've been in the industry and coaching other artists for a while and your business has scaled, right? You said you just decided one day and told your husband, like, this is what I want to do. I'm sure at the beginning, you may have just helped friends and family or friends of friends and maybe had a contract, maybe didn't. But now I'm sure you utilize one. What are a few clauses in, let's just talk about makeup artistry contracts in particular.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure, you know, as we get going in this episode, you'll talk about other beauty industry contracts and things specifically related to them. But for makeup artists, what are a few clauses that you wish you would have had at the very beginning that you've since added in? This is contract clauses we're talking about.
I love that you said that a contract is a living document. And in fact, when I was preparing for this conversation, those are the exact words that I said. I'm like, man, it's truly a living document. It'll never be done. It'll like your contract will never be finished. You'll always be like tweaking it because you learn so much through experience, especially when you're working with like brides. Yeah. Oh my goodness. You just come across so many interesting characters and interesting situations that you're like, yep, adding that to the contract, right? So when I first started out, my contract was so big. In fact, oh my God, I'm embarrassed.
It's all right. Just say it because I like people to know where everybody started out. We are all regular people and we all like start somewhere or really start nowhere with no contract.
Right. I started on Google and I just Googled like makeup artist contract and downloaded the first free contract that I could find.
I'm clapping because girl, that is what everybody does and you are admitting it and it is okay. We have to admit where we started.
Listen, okay. If we're going to tell the story, we're going to tell it right. So I did. And my contract was super basic because you don't know what you don't know when you're first starting out. And so what I have learned though is that your contract at minimum just needs to cover the who, what, when, where, and most importantly, the what if, right? And what I didn't have in the beginning is the what if. I had the who, which is who are the parties to the contract? The what, meaning what services will be exchanged on that day? What will I show up and do? When I need to show up, where I need to be showing up, you know, and this is especially important for brides because they often are getting ready at a different location from the actual wedding. And so you want to have in writing, where do you need to show up? Are we moving throughout the day? Like, what are the terms here? But I did not have provisions for all the what ifs. What if I need to cancel? What if you need to cancel? What happens then? What if someone gets sick? What if you get that call a week before the wedding and the bride's like, I know I signed for 8 people, but actually we only need makeup for 3. Like, what? And it happens all the time, right?
Oh, of course.
And so through the experiences of working with tons of weddings, I've just created, you know, added provisions for all of the what ifs that have come up in my business. So I think, you know, everyone's contract will be different because your business is different. Your audience is different. I have colleagues that are so specific in their contract. They have provisions for who can be in the room. One of my mentors has a contract, a provision in her contract where it's like, if anyone touches anything in my kit, you're paying for it. Like you're paying for that item. Like she's crazy. But like,
That's a little extreme, but okay.
That's extreme.
It's your
And
contract.
that does not resonate with me. But it's, you can have those types of things in your contract, provided that they're legal, right? But really, it's meant to protect you for the what ifs of it all, because there's a lot of moving parts with weddings. And again, you just want to make sure that both you and your client are protected, know what to expect. It also lays the foundation and sets the tone for how you expect your customer to do business with you. Because here's the thing, right? A lot of people don't understand that makeup artists really work with and I'm speaking a lot about brides because I feel like my contract was really the most important when I was doing lots of brides.
Mm-hmm.
What a lot of people don't realize is that makeup artists are typically the last vendor that are booked for the wedding. By the time they get to us, they already have their venue, their caterer, their planner, photographer, all that's locked in. And they're like, oh yeah, I need makeup. So we're the last ones in, but we're often the first ones in the room on that wedding day.
Yeah.
And we set the tone, we create the vibe in the space. And that energy starts with the contract and how you're really kind of solidifying that relationship, that engagement. And so yeah, I just want beauty pros to be really thoughtful about what they're including in their contract so it really protects them and sets the tone for how you'll be working together.
Okay, love all of this. So as you're talking, I'm like scrolling our contract template over on the side of my screen. And before I keep moving on with the questions that I had laid out for you, I just wanted to quickly, this is like rapid fire. Paige is going to talk as quick as she can.
Yeah.
For makeup artists that are listening in, here are a few of the things that I just want you to like checklist and make sure are in your contract. Because when we drafted this, we had gotten a lot of input from makeup artists prior to drafting it. And one of the things in particular that Tiyana brought up was like early morning. You're there usually very early, way before other people. Crack of dawn,
Yes.
which is something that potentially you should charge additional rates for early mornings because it's before 8 or 9 a.m., which is when everyone else is starting. So in your fee section in particular, this is more laid out in beauty industry contracts that we have at thelegalpaige.com because you guys have just a lot more things that could occur regarding your rates. And that's something you were just saying, like, first and foremost, get yourself a hefty retainer. I think
hefty.
I think beauty pros, I'm not gonna like point out the name of the person, but when I was booking services for my wedding, that actually never happened because of COVID, but they only charge, and I was going to do everyone, like my entire bridal party, my the moms, the aunts, everybody. They asked for a $50 deposit. And I was just like, okay, that's great for me as the consumer, but for you and like what I do as a lawyer, I was like, I am very concerned for you and ensuring that you're getting paid what you're worth in case something were to happen down the line, which is interesting because it did. It did. COVID happened. Like my wedding was supposed to be in 2020 and like I booked this in 2019. So they had no idea. And the deposit was $50. So that was just like the loss for me, which was easy. But for them, it was so much bigger. And they can't come back and ask me for more money. So first and foremost, there's a really, really good actual example for you all to get a hefty retainer. You can do a flat fee. You can do a percentage of like the package that they anticipate booking with you right at the time of them signing the contract. Make sure you have any late fees in there for invoicing because this is a big one for makeup artists where, like you said, they're kind of the last ones booked, the beauty industry professionals, and they're going to pay all of their like venues and photographers and videographers, like the 5K plus vendors. They're going to pay them first and your invoice is just going to be sitting there. So be professional and like have late fee. Like you're still a business owner and you still should be charging late fees. And then of course, in particular, for what Tiyana just said, at the end of your fee clause, you need to have something in regards to this is the current pricing that you are offering at the time of booking. If they choose to increase their package, that fees will be charged for the pricing in effect at that time. Also,
at that time.
Downgrades. This is really important. And this is what Tiyana said. The client has to understand and agree that they cannot downgrade the package with the price attached to it. So if they want, of course you can waive this provision, and Tiyana, we can talk about this a little bit, but I think that is really important because you are choosing to get this package with this client and cross off this date on your calendar for a bridal party of say 10. And maybe you even had an inquiring other client on that same date for a bridal party of 5, and you decided upon the bridal party of 10 for a very obvious reason. Why would you allow a downgrade in that situation when you're losing out on money? Obviously, things happen, right? Things happen. But I think that needs to be probably on the bride to get additional payments from people, or they need to pay for that if their friends or their bridesmaids choose not to get makeup applications day of, what have you. And obviously, this provision is there to protect you so that they feel like they can't downgrade, that you are booking them for the package that they originally had. And of course, if something happens and you just want to be the good guy, you always can. That's what I want to say here. You can always waive that provision and say, in my contract, you aren't allowed to downgrade the package. We can certainly upgrade it. Or we can, maybe add on different services while I'm there to get to the price that, you agreed upon and the package that you agreed upon. I'm happy to work with you. But those type of things need to be in your contract. And I wanted to say that. And then finally, and you can do follow-ups here, Tiyana, is additional fees. Because you have your base package, you have a solid retainer, you have this additional information regarding upgrades, downgrades, and current pricing at the time of booking, and future pricing could change, which is important because as we know right now in 2022, everyone's having to increase their pricing packages due to, the supply shortage, just increasing in pricing and inflation all around the country, so on and so forth. So you would charge more now for someone booking versus what you charged in 2019, for example. But in hair and makeup artist contracts, beauty industry contracts, I'm going to try to change my frame of mind surrounding that. I'm working really hard at that, you guys, is have additional provisions under your fee clause or secondary to your fee clause regarding early morning rates, right? If you have to be there between 6:30 to 8 a.m., you need to upcharge for that, $100.
Absolutely.
If you're there between 5 or 6:30, you need to upcharge $200. If you have to wake up at 4 a.m., they should be paying for that because that's their day and their timeline that they're trying to, abide by and make sure that everything works. But that's your time and effort and money and exhaustion that you're dealing with as well. Day of late fees are important as well. Just something for when clients are delayed and you're just sitting there, waiting for them. And potentially it's impacting other things that you have going on throughout the day if you have other clients thereafter. Travel fees. Don't forget about travel fees. Please, please, please don't forget about travel fees. Parking fees, for example, if you're at a venue and you have a large kit and you need to park in the venue's parking lot, but they charge for that, the client should be responsible for that, not you. Unless you want to upcharge your package exponentially. You can always, always, always do that and kind of have it all inclusive. Federal holidays are a big one as well. I tell people this across the wedding and event industry. People, any type of holidays, not just federal holidays, but really any holiday, if you are choosing to work on it, there should be an upcharge for it. Anyone in the wedding and event space. And a lot of events take place on these days because normal everyday people have those days off. So it's easier to go to. And then trials. That's the other thing that needs to be within your fee clause. Are you having an all-inclusive package? But if they do a trial, those are services performed. So you need to explain that in your contract that if they do the trial and then they don't like it, like you've already performed services. And so that would come out of the retainer. So just a lot of fee things that if you guys are new and you're listening, I just wanted to extrapolate those a little bit for you. And I'm sure Tiyana is going to like run with this now that I just talked about it.
Because you did such a beautiful job.
Well, I have it from a contract perspective because I just want people to protect themselves. But like all of those things I said, I bet if you're new to the industry, you just thought you needed a fee. You just needed a fee and that was it. And you didn't need to like list all of these secondary or like tertiary provisions in your contract because you're like, I didn't even know I needed that or that was necessary or like I need to charge for that. I'm worthy of charging for that, so on and so forth. So any additions to like fee clauses in your contract, Tiyana?
No, I think you really, really did a great job of covering all the nuances that even I forgot about because I haven't done weddings in about 2 years now.
Yeah.
So, but no, all of that is so, so important. Going back to the amount of the retainer that you collect, like you need to make it a retainer that people will not want to walk away from. $50, people will walk away from all day long, right? But when you're collecting 50% up front, or more, they have to think twice about it. And I think that is really the intention because you are blocking off that time on your calendar and you want to make sure that if you're expecting that revenue to come in, it's going to come in. So I think that is so, so important. And then everything else down to parking and all those details should absolutely be captured in your contract. It makes it so much easier. You don't have to think about it. And I think the other thing, the other little piece of advice, and one of the things that I shifted to was just not collecting money on the day of.
Yes.
I just felt icky on my client's wedding day, like, all right, kind of waiting around, waiting to be paid. And they've moved on and they're getting into their dress. Like, it's just an awkward situation. And so I always set up my contracts and my payments to make sure that, the balance due was paid in full prior to the day of. I could just show up and have an amazing time without having to worry about settling things up. And if people wanted to leave a tip or gratuity, that was extra and, not the expectation, but I could just, pack my things up and leave without having to worry about that. But no, I think everything that you mentioned is spot on for sure.
Okay, 2 questions surrounding this because I think you can do it. Well, there's multiple ways to do it in terms of invoicing that final payment. And I'm sure you get this question in your beauty, Beauty Mogul University. So it's good to invoice like 7 days prior. That's what most all wedding and event vendors do because they want to be paid in full prior to being there. I'm sure you might get a little pushback from that. I don't think you should ever, ever, ever require payment day of because it's just a hot mess express. I've heard way too many bad stories surrounding beauty industry professionals just standing around waiting to get paid and they don't want to leave until they get paid. But I think there's probably a way in which you could set it up where at least 3/4 of the package price was paid prior to you showing up. So you feel really, really good about being there. And then you could send, this is the pushback that I would assume some beauty industry professionals would say is, well, I really want to get that tip. And it's hard to ask for a tip prior to you actually performing the services and being there. And like you said, you're setting a tone and intention and like this bridesmaid may love you and like the mother-in-law may love you and wants to give you like a $50, $100 tip. And how are you going to get that? Maybe they'll throw you, a 50 day of. But again, that's like who has the mental capacity to like think about all of that day of. I think you're more likely to get a really good tip if you invoice a little bit after. But what's your experience on that? I'm just curious because I'm not a makeup artist and have no idea. Like, are you then just waiting for the invoice to get paid? Do they actually pay it on time? Do you actually get tips? Like, that's the pushback I was thinking there.
What a great question. No, so I personally never, I'm always paid before the day of. And I really would encourage people to not invoice, at least for beauty services, after the wedding day, because you have to remember they're on their freaking honeymoon.
Yeah.
Like at this point, they are tapped out. And by invoicing after the wedding, you're just opening yourself up to them, not paying, to be honest. And so I really encourage my students to, nope, go ahead and invoice ahead of time. And the good thing is that because apps like Venmo and Cash App are now popular, people are just used to it. Like, oh, let me Venmo you, $50, like whatever. So it's just become like just a normal thing for the tip to be offered.
Okay.
Just for tips on the day of. But I also would encourage beauty pros, especially when you're doing weddings, to, tips are nice to have, but shouldn't be the expectation, right? Mm-hmm. And so if you're relying on tips, I would encourage you to look at your rate and make sure that you're charging enough so that the tip literally, it just becomes your fun money. Like, it's like, oh, a delightful surprise, right? So don't set yourself up to have to rely on that tip to make your ends meet or to meet your revenue goals. Like, that's kind of hustling backwards, right?
Such a good answer.
Yeah. I want you to come into that day having charged so much that you're excited to show up, and the energy that you're bringing into the room, I promise you, those people who are going to tip you, they will tip you, whether in cash, Cash App, Venmo, they were going to do it anyway. Right.
Yeah.
So that's how I would address that.
Oh, seriously. You just like killed that answer. I was like nodding my head like, yes, that's such a good answer. Oh my gosh, I love it. Hey there, listener. If you've been tuning in and thinking to yourself, gosh, I need a solid hairstylist contract, or geez, I really need to get my legal stuff in order with a makeup artist contract, or even if you're a different type of beauty pro, such as an esthetician or extension artist, you absolutely need to check out our template contracts in the Legal Paige shop. Just head over to thelegalpaige.com/beauty pros to get legally legit within minutes. Again, that's thelegalpaige.com, PAIGE.com/beauty pros, PROS. Back to the episode. Okay. My second question surrounding fees is downgrades. So I talked about it a little bit from my perspective and legally speaking, like what I think you should put in the contract as if I were to be your attorney as a makeup artist.
Mm-hmm.
What have you seen in the industry? Like beauty pros who are oftentimes, they're consistently getting asked to downgrade their package. Like what do you offer them? Like what are your best tips for that situation?
And let me tell you, it happens a lot where you get the bride who reaches out and she's like, listen, I understand as well. So just in really plain language, the answer is no. We don't allow downgrades because, again, you have signed that contract with the expectation of X amount of dollars coming into your business. You've made decisions with that number in mind in regards to supplies and preparation. Like, you're relying on that revenue to come in. And so the language that you want to include in your contract is, this is the amount, that's the expectation, and it's on you. And that's the balance due regardless. So I allow transfers. And if you want to, pop your aunt in because, the bride's like, I'm down. I'll do whoever's makeup on that day.
Oh, that's a good idea. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like, I don't care. I don't care. Or it's just like, so basically I leave it up to the bride to figure out how she's going to figure out the balance due. And I'm flexible enough to truly not care who they pop in to fill that spot.
Yeah. Okay, I'm glad I answered that question correctly, because every time I'm such a lawyer, if you guys are listening to this podcast, I'm always like, well, it depends. I mean, you could waive it. And like, I always am like, this is the goal. Your contract is like your foundation for your business is what I always say. And then you can like tweak things on top of like the actual house that you build and like the inside framework. So that's the tweaking that Tiyana was talking about is I agree. Yeah. I think that you make decisions and I love how you said you get products, like you're fully prepared and it's usually the week of or something along those lines where someone in the wedding party reaches out and is like, I don't want to do this. I'm just going to do it myself, or like whatever, financial woes. But that should not impact you. And they booked a package, they signed a contract with you, like they are liable for paying that amount. And then you can finagle with them on like how many, like, can you bring in another person, or, do you, I don't know, something along those lines.
Yeah,
So,
and it is a case by case. And Paige, I just want to be clear, like also be a human being, right?
Right,
So
be a
if
human
if an
being.
emergency happened or something crazy happened and they explain that to you and you feel it's right to waive
Yeah.
that part of it, that's fine. But if it's just like, Crystal decided that she didn't want makeup anymore, then it's like, I'm sorry, but the contract is the contract. Because the truth is your contract is only as good as your willingness to actually enforce it.
Yep.
And if you're constantly going to waive, everything within the contract, then you might as well not have it, right? So
Absolutely.
there's a line where you kind of have to, yes, be a human, but also honor your business as well. So yeah.
Okay.
There's that flexibility there.
Okay. Love all of it. Turning now to a major issue with beauty industry pros: allergies, reactions, warranties of products. So let's face it, right? The product could even be recalled after you've used it. It's completely out of your control. Or an allergic reaction could occur on somebody that didn't even know they had an allergy towards that product. So have you run into any sticky situations like this, or have anyone like in, your students run into situations like this? And how do you suggest people best handle them?
Oh my gosh, I have. So I had one client in particular, and she actually didn't tell me that she had an allergy until, and weird thing is I ask. So that's the first thing. Always ask, right?
Yeah, it's got to be in your contract.
Your skin prep, yeah. But even beyond the contract, on the day when you're setting up and you're about to do your thing, ask again. Because people don't read. Like people don't read.
Right.
So you can totally have it in your contract, and they're just so excited to get it locked in that they probably just skimmed and didn't, maybe didn't pay attention to the details. So after this experience, I just make it a habit to always specifically ask if they have any allergies. So here's what happened. I was doing makeup. This was actually not a wedding. She was a pageant contestant. And I was doing the skin prep or whatever. And I always ask. And then I always talk through the product. And so I don't know if she wasn't paying attention, but I'm like spraying this little spray, like in the skin prep. And I'm like, oh, this is like rose water. And she's like, I'm allergic to rose.
Oh, God.
And I'm like, oh my God. Cause she's literally about to get on stage or whatever. And so from that moment, I was like, yeah, like I have to really be diligent about making sure that in my contract, I have a clause specific to what happens if, you use a product that my client has reaction to or whatever, that's there, but also specifically asking at the beginning of service. And it can happen, like, especially when you're dealing with eyeshadows. A lot of people are allergic to red dyes and like different things, and you put it on their skin and they're like having a thing happen. And as much as we try to use great quality products, everyone's different. And so, yeah, you just want to make sure that you have some type of language in your contract that says, I am not liable for if you have a reaction to something in my kit. And also, I do my very best to make sure that I keep my kit sanitized and safe for you. So again, I view my contract as an even exchange. It protects me, it protects my client. So I always like to put that kind of language in there so they feel safe coming into the experience as well.
Love it. Yeah. So this is kind of like a double evidence, double proof situation in the legal world is what I don't really think there's a term for it, but you're offering yourself double protection in terms of your contract states, any allergic reactions that the client knows about, or any of the people that are getting makeup applications know about, needs to be disclosed prior. I'll be sending out.
Yep.
And this is what Tiyana's saying, like, do your due diligence here, have them sign the contract. Make sure that you send out like an allergy disclosure form prior to the event as well for everyone. And then make sure you're asking them as well, like right before you apply any of your beauty products to this person. So that's 3 different ways that you're protecting yourself. But of course, contract comes first. But I love that you said like people just skim that. They're not going to really look at it, which is why I'm going through a lot of this with you in terms of, clients do. They absolutely skim it. And so you just want to be clear where this is at in your contract, why it's there to protect you. And then like maybe you need to do a couple additional steps to ensure that that protection actually stays true. So another thing that I have had come up is in regards to clients getting ready for you to perform services on them. So this is true for like hairstylists as well. I'm sure you know about this.
Yes.
And like hair is a big one. Like your hair, right, has to be like prepared or ready for hairstyling in a certain way. But same with makeup applications, right? Like if they have certain things like or they've applied something like in the morning, how does that affect your services day of? And this is a clause, you guys, that's in our contracts kind of called like clients' responsibilities to be ready for hairstyling or be ready for makeup application. So of course that's in the contract, but can you just elaborate a bit on like what you need to be aware of and like things that could present itself if you're like new to the industry? And then do you like send people as well, like how to prepare like the week in advance or something like that?
Yes. So I send an entire prep list.
Perfect. Okay.
So one of the things that I do for my brides and that I definitely have my students do is ahead of the wedding. Cause okay, here's the thing, y'all. Like weddings are an every weekend thing for us. So we can do a wedding the back of our hand. We know the ins and outs, but for most people, this is their first time, right? They don't know what to expect. And so as the expert, as the beauty pro, it is on you to guide your customer through the experience and let them know what you need in order to come and knock it out of the park for them. So one of the things that I started doing for my bridal parties is putting together a whole wedding prep guide. And so it has the timeline for the day broken down to, all right, I need Amy ready in my chair at 8 a.m. The next person's at 9. She's going to be at, like, I get really, really specific and send it ahead of time. So they have time to move things around and be ready at the times that are listed, right? And so within that prep guide, I have my allergy disclosure. I include how to prep your skin to be ready for makeup. And it includes things like, don't put anything on your skin. Don't do anything because that also increases. So if someone sits in your chair and they have a ton of yesterday's eyeliner or a ton of yesterday's makeup on because they partied all night, then that elongates the time that they're going to be in your chair because now you have to remove that makeup before you can apply whatever, right? And so those are just little things that you need to think about. So, have them come with absolutely nothing on. And that's another layer of protection for you because you don't know if they put on some kind of, chemical cream or whatever that could possibly react with some of your skin prep stuff. So I urge my customers to come barefaced. I don't care if you're dry, like wash your face beforehand, like come as bare as possible so I can really start from ground zero. And then when I start skin prep, I'm still wiping everything down because I am a little scarred from that experience, but I just want to make sure that I'm able to work efficiently. I can guarantee that my products and the way that I've designed my skin prep and the way that I've designed my whole routine is going to work because I know what's on the skin. And that has been really helpful for not only me, but my customers. They feel like I'm super fancy and, so it goes into the customer experience as well.
Yeah. In addition to that as well, I think making sure that you have in your contract all of that stuff. And of course, sending that like prep guide right before. I'm sure you put this in your prep guide, but you guys also put it in your contract that it's like the client's responsibility as well to kind of provide that like cool, well-lit room or like you have access to
100%.
like your chair to be put right in front of a window so that you can adequately see what the makeup is going to look like, especially if it's like an outdoor wedding or something along those lines, and that it's temperature controlled. And you want to limit your liability. So a lot of the things that we put in our contract is all about limiting liability for allergic reactions, limiting liability here for compromised services due to, circumstances outside of your control, like, they're late or the actual like humidity conditions in the room. Like they think it's a really good idea to do it on their balcony and like, not a good idea.
Yes.
Yeah. So things like that you want to put in your contract.
Absolutely.
All right. I want to go back to a couple things here and pick your brain about retainers and like what you suggest people charging. And then in addition, like trial runs of hair and makeup and like how that factors into it. So first, What do you suggest for people? Is it kind of their own business policies and practices? Like, do some charge a flat fee for retainers? Do some charge a percentage? Like, as an industry expert, what is your best suggestion here?
Yeah, you're spot on. Like, people do different things.
Okay.
I recommend a percentage. I've always felt the most comfortable with, and I'm just be transparent, like 50%.
Yeah.
At minimum of the
At minimum.
contracted amount, accepting that upfront. And that
Non-refundable,
really is like
non-transferable.
That's it. And it's to save the date. And so that is definitely my recommendation for retainers.
Now, in terms of like trial runs, right? Because especially for big events, like you said, these clients oftentimes, like, this is the biggest day of their life. And I know I would want a makeup trial. I would want a hair trial so that it's not just like a good luck day of. What do you charge in addition for those? Are they included in packages? What do you see the most? And then how does that like factor in with the retainer or something along those lines if they should cancel services, God forbid?
So my answer to this is going to be very different from what most people might expect. And I think the way that you structure your trials and how you charge for them really needs to be tailored to the type of client that you want to book. Because here's the thing, right? There are different types of clients on the marketplace, and they each value and base their booking or buying decision on something different. So you may want to work with the type of, I call it's like a mass market client, right? So she is the budget shopper. She's price conscious. And so she's making her booking decision based on price. There's nothing wrong with that. I have no judgments at all. However, for her, packages are never going to work, right? Like, she's never going to say yes to a package because she's looking for the a la carte. What is everything going to cost? Is at Lashes Extra. Like, that's just the type of client that she is. And if you know that you are in that type of market, then for you, it makes sense to have your trial be separate. It's a separate fee. It's basically a whole separate thing instead of trying to wrap it into your package. If you are dealing with, I call them prestige brides. A prestige bride, she is like the bride that's getting married at the Ritz. She's all about status, right? She wants you to do everything all inclusive. She's not making her decision based upon price. She wants to book someone who's going to take care of everything from A to Z. She has a very specific thing in mind that she wants, and she wants to make sure that she's basically getting the princess or the queen treatment. That is a client who you might be able to get away with doing a full all-inclusive package. The trial is included, and you really don't have to worry about the nitpicky, and I'm not talking about contractually, but in terms of like the pricing psychology, you don't really have to worry about the nitpicky a la carte, because that's not what resonates with her. She just wants the experience, and she wants you to show up. She wants that trial, right? She wants you to show up. Let's figure out the hair and makeup. I want to do it before the day of. So that's a different type of thing, right? And so there are two more types of clients in between. You have your luxury clients who they may not be wealthy, right? Like, a luxury client doesn't have to be someone who makes a lot of money or is wealthy, but she's willing to make an investment to get the best of the best. And so for that type of clients where, yes, this might be a stretch for her, but she'll do it if you can make it make sense, then you have a little bit of wiggle room in regards to, are you creating packages, and do you build that trial into the package experience, or do you want to offer it as a separate thing? So again, I think the answer to this is whether you include the trial in the package or you offer it a la carte will depend on the type of client that you want to attract. Now, if you are going to build it into the package, then you need to be real clear with the language that's in your contract. Like, no take backsies.
Exactly.
Truly. And I actually don't position it as a trial. It is a bridal preview. And the intention of that session is for us to get together and figure out the details of the look. So I really don't even position it as like an extra thing. It's not an add-on. Like, this is a part of the bridal experience that we're having together. And I did luxury weddings when I was in the bridal industry heavily. And so I really didn't position it as I was as though I was charging them for it. It was literally just rolled into the package, the experience. So they didn't feel like they were being charged extra for it. So yeah, it really just depends on how you're positioning your services.
Such a phenomenal answer and suggestions to that. Legally speaking, you're totally correct. It's a little trickier in terms of like the legal language and how you explain the trial run or the bridal preview. I love the word that or whatever you said. That was so on point. I was like, I just call it a trial run. But yeah, words. It's good to like use the copy correctly. For how you're marketing your services. In your contract, though, it's easier legal language wise to charge the trial run. That's what I'm going to call it separately. Because of course, if they do it, great, they pay. If they don't do it, then, they don't have to pay and it's like not in there. It's just like an a la carte thing. And that's easier to add in your contract. In terms of like a preview or like an all-inclusive package, like Tiyana said, you just have to be really clear. That has to be services performed, quote unquote. Yes. So if anything were to happen down the line and, there was some weird sticky situation with like refund requests or cancellations or reschedulings or things along those lines, the what ifs that Tiyana talked about at the very, very beginning of this episode. And I love that. And I might like steal her who, what, when, where, why, what if. That's so on point with contracts. The what if is, what if something happens after the trial run or after your, bridal makeup preview? That has to be included as services performed, which would either be an addition to the retainer and they have to pay for that, or you have to explain like that's a part of the retainer. You might need to bump up your percentage to account for that, for the retainer that you're taking from your clients at the beginning. And all of this is going to be based upon your specific business practices. Like Tiyana said, everyone does it differently, but just know the way that you explain those things through the legal language in your contract is very, very important. All right, last big thing I wanted to touch on in terms of things that happen. This is with marketing and advertising, so it's right up your alley, but it's also in a contract regarding model releases and posting on social media. Because I've learned this with the beauty industry, it's a little different. Like photographers and videographers and like florists and wedding planners, like it's all kind of expected that they're going to post on social media and it's going to be like the beautiful professional photographs that the client really actually most of the time, 99.9% of the time is okay with and likes it to be posted online. First of all, I see a lot of beauty industry people that don't have a model release clause in their contract. If you guys don't have one, I'm concerned for you because
please add it. Oh my God.
Because if you don't, like you have no release to put them on even your Instagram stories. So you have to have that. But also like posting on social media. I think that this could be an either or situation. And I've heard this from beauty industry professionals. Sometimes people don't like to do before and afters because it makes the client not feel good about themselves. Like I have to be the after, right? To be beautiful versus the before. But some clients don't even want to like have their makeup or like all of that shown on social media whatsoever. Some people are very private. So those are the type of clauses you have to have in your contract, of course. Like, what does your client actually release to you? Can you get the professional photos from the photographer and use those for your marketing and advertising? I always suggest you do, especially for big events that kind of Tiyana and I have primarily focused on in this episode here. But for posting on social media, I guess, those are the things you have to put in your contract, legally speaking. But then, Tiyana, how does it really play out for hair and makeup artists? Like, what type of things do you educate on surrounding that for ensuring that you are getting a little bit of marketing out of your services? But, just talk about that a little bit more from your perspective.
Yes. So first and foremost, releases always. Okay. So even when one of my marketing strategies and how I was able to really grow my Instagram was I would get together with a model. So I would literally just find a model on Instagram doing the hashtag DC, looking at the hashtag DC models and just find random beautiful faces and have them come over and I would do a look on them. And even when I do that, I have them sign a release. Okay.
Yep.
I just have it on my iPad and I just have them sign it. And it just gives me permission to post post the photos and videos from the sessions.
Yeah.
So I have it for that. So you've got to know that I have it in my official contracts for big events as well. So I updated my release to include the professional photos as well as any photos or videos that I take with my cell phone.
Yeah.
So that way I don't have to bug the bride for photos. I can just go to the photographer and get them back. And also it covers me for the stuff that I get behind the scenes. But I make it standard practice to ask specifically the day of, like, oh, do you mind if I take photos and videos? And I have gotten no before, which is crazy.
Yeah.
But it's totally their prerogative because here's the thing. They are paying you for a service and they don't owe you marketing from that, right? So they can totally say no and it's totally within their rights. So I just educate my students to always have the provision in your contract, but still ask because the truth is they may change their mind. Maybe they're not feeling it that day, whatever. And I feel like it's less drama than having someone potentially, DM you or email you like, take my picture now, so I just always ask. And 9 times out of 10, they are perfectly happy to allow you to post, photos and videos and sometimes before and afters. But just make sure that consent is there in writing, as well as I like to do the due diligence of verbally as well. So I always do multiple touch points with all my stuff. I hope that's the takeaway, right?
That's a big takeaway from this episode.
Because, again, I've learned that people are just so excited that they often just don't read the fine details. So even though you've like, it's in my contract, didn't you read it? The answer is probably not. Probably not. So
I would say a big example I have, you guys, I did 8 years as a wedding photographer. And one of the ones I remember the most is like clients couldn't decide if they wanted like an updo or a downdo for hairstyling. And then they didn't want to disclose that to anyone until they walked down the aisle.
Right.
And so I remember in particular, a hairstylist got in trouble for like posting it and the bride, because I'm with the bride all day, right? The hairstylist is on. But then they're posting for their marketing and advertising. And clearly they didn't ask because it did mean something where like the gal was trying to surprise her partner at the end of the aisle in regards to what she was going to look like. And it wasn't just the dress, like, there's just other things. Like it's the whole look. And so it's just a really good reminder to always ask. Like the fine print is there. It's obviously legally binding, but you just don't want to piss people off and make people really mad on a very high stress, high emotional day.
And Paige, let me just add to that. And that totally, yes to that. So I made a standard practice that I don't post any of my brides until after their day. So I don't even post their trial
until the day after
their day. Yeah. So that's such a great reminder. And it's just something that I do for that reason, that I just didn't even think about it until you said that. But that's the reason why, is because for a lot of my brides in particular, it is a surprise. But also I think back to my own wedding and so your listeners probably don't know me, but hopefully they'll come over to my Instagram and hang out with me.
I'm sure they will. They're going to love you.
When they come over, you'll see that like my hair has become a part of my brand.
It has.
But what
She's
a lot of people don't,
to the extreme, you guys.
Girl, the curls. I'm the girl
Love
with the curls. So, but what a lot of people don't know is that I didn't wear my hair like this until my wedding day. And I actually always wore my hair super straight, like straight. And so I debuted my new look at my wedding day. And I quite frankly would have been very, very upset if my own hairstylist or, makeup artist posted my stuff before my wedding. And so I just, as a courtesy to my brides, I just, knowing that they put a lot of thought and a lot of energy into the look. So I just don't post until after the big day.
Yeah, I said hairology. I meant hairography. That's exactly what you are, like consistently. Okay, 2 points to that, and then we'll wrap up here. So first of all, have that in your contract, like so that they know that that's something you're protecting them with in the contract.
Yeah.
That they agree to a model release, they agree to XYZ that you can post on your own social media or website or other marketing and advertising materials, but that you will always wait until 24 hours after your services have been completed or something along those lines. That's great. And then vice versa, right? You want to have a posting on social media clause for the clients that it's just, you can't always control it, but it's good to have. And then it's in your contract and you can remind them like day of as well, that if they are, their bridesmaid is like doing a swipe through of the getting ready room and you're in it and you're doing makeup and they like do a zoom in on a bridesmaid, right? Or something along, not the actual client. And they post that they tag you. So it goes both ways. You want to make sure that your marketing is coming from word of mouth as well. So, and then you can just remind them. And then like Tiyana said, this is also something that you can send out in like the prep, email, just like let people know, like, here's my social media tags if they want to like follow me before the event or something along those lines.
Yeah. And what I've seen my students do that I think is just absolutely adorable is they will have a little sign on their station with their Instagram handle and their hashtag. So yes, do all that stuff is so helpful. Word of mouth is everything, and especially in bridal. So any little touch that you can do like that, I've seen people put it on their actual makeup chair. So they'll like screen print it on, and
like the psychology of like them actually posting. Like they would want to post when they see the Instagram handle there, and it'll remind them that they should post. That is genius.
Yeah, it's good.
That's good. All right. So we went through a lot. Obviously, there's other things, just like boilerplate language clauses you need to have in your contract. We're not going to go through any of those. But you guys, we went through so many very specific detailed clauses, that you need to have in your beauty industry contract, but as well as, Tiyana offered great advice onto how you further that customer service and, other touch points that you can have regarding informing your clients about your business policies and practices and things that they need to be aware of. Tiyana, as we wrap up the interview, what are some like last few little remaining advice nuggets that you have to artists in the beauty industry and how they can just really ensure that their business stands out from others? I would love to hear that from you.
Yeah. So I think the biggest thing is understanding that regardless of if you are a hairstylist, makeup artist, lash tech, nail tech, whatever it is that you do in the beauty industry, the industry is only getting more and more crowded by the day as it just becomes more in vogue to not only get beauty services, but also to be a beauty pro. Back in the day, it was like, oh, you're a makeup artist? Like, girl, what happened? But now it's like, oh, you're a makeup. Like, it's become the cool thing.
Yeah. I follow them. I think they're fun to follow. I'm like, yes.
Right.
Do your thing.
And I'm excited about that. That means that our industries are growing and there's only opportunity. But here's the thing. A lot of beauty pros are really afraid to get specific about what it is that they do because they have this limiting belief that if I niche down my services or if I only provide one type of thing, then no one will book me. And I'm finding that actually specializing your beauty services, or at minimum having a signature technique or signature look, a signature thing that you do is becoming the thing that helps you not only stand out, but allows you to charge more. Think about it this way. If you had to get brain surgery, right? And you show up to the hospital and you're like, I need emergency brain surgery. And they're like, okay, we have two choices. You can go to the general doctor over there that does like wart removal. And sometimes he does, some stuff with the brain. Or you can get our chief brain surgeon. Now they're going to charge you more, but they're going to guarantee that you get this thing removed that you need from your brain. Who are you going to choose, right? 9 times out of 10, if you're a smart person, you're going to choose the person that specializes in the thing that you need. Same thing applies to your business in beauty. People are coming to you because they have a beauty need. And especially when we're thinking about a high stakes event like a wedding. I know we've been talking a lot about weddings, but a high stakes event like a wedding, but even for getting your hair dyed or cut and colored or whatever, like people will pay you more for your specialization. So I would encourage all the beauty
absolutely.
pros
Like
out there
extensions.
and extensions and
Yeah.
all that, right? Like go start thinking about how you can go narrow and deep, because that's going to allow you to become the local go-to beauty rock star for whatever it is that you do, right? People will know what to call you for. So specialization is the key going forward. And I just love helping beauty pros really understand how they can take their passion for beauty and get really clear about how they can position themselves as a premium beauty pro, no matter where they live. I don't believe that your location has to hold you back from making lots of money in the beauty industry. I love helping people get clear about their pricing. I love helping people get clear about how to market themselves and really attract those, I call them champagne clients, to their business. And this is what I call the P3 effect. So if you can get clear about how to position yourself as a premium, how to price yourself, how to get popular on Instagram, and how to get profitable in your business, you are on the right track. So I'm always available as a resource. You can visit me on Instagram at Tiyana Robinson Beauty. And I also am just launching a marketing membership specifically for beauty pros. It's called Social Beauty Society, because marketing is the heartbeat of your business as a beauty pro. But we wear all the hats, Paige. We have to be over marketing and sales. We have to be our customer service. We have to then show up and do the work. And so marketing, like at the end of the day, when you take off your shoes and sit down after a long day of being at the chair, no one wants to think about freaking posting on Instagram, right? Like it's the last thing that's on your mind, but it's kind of the most important thing, because you really have to put yourself in all the places that your customer is looking for you. And so given my history in marketing and sales, given my knack for, social media specifically, I was like, how can I make this just really easy for beauty pros? And so we came up with this idea of doing a marketing membership where you pay just $37 a month, and we literally send you your marketing calendar for the month, including the plug and play captions. So literally we cut your marketing down to just a few minutes per day. We give you everything that you need, and we just make it really easy for you to look like $1 million, for you to charge premium prices, and for you to market your business with ease. So we're just about to launch that in April. So we're recording this before April, but we're launching it in April. And so if you want to check it out, you can go to tiytaughtme.com, TIY taughtme.com/SBS. And just because you are a listener of Paige's amazing podcast, if you enter code Paige, we have a special discount for you. And that we'll honor that forever. So no matter when you're listening to this, you can pop over to that page, check us out. You can join the membership. Let us do the marketing for you, basically. And join our tribe of socialites who are killing it on social media.
Well, thanks so much. I am so excited for all of my listeners and hopefully some of your audience that came over here to learn a little bit more about beauty industry contracts and just ways in which they can better protect their businesses. Obviously, our followers as well are just gonna sit here. I'm like slow clapping back here with just like all the information that Tiyana brought to this episode. It was one of my favorite ones I've ever recorded. That was just, you are a wealth of information, and you just brought the power in this episode with all of your expertise in marketing and advertising and just being a good human and customer service and all of the things. So you guys, I will link up Tiyana on Instagram, of course, in our show notes. All of these links will be there as well for this episode. But again, go follow her, Tiyana Robinson Beauty, on Instagram. And Tiyana, thanks so much for taking time out of your day to be here with us.
Thank you. Give that sweet baby a big hug and a kiss.
I will.
Of me and all the beauty moguls. I just love all the emails that you send through with his cute little face.
Well, thank you. All right, guys. Till next time. Thank you so much for listening to the Legal Paige Podcast. I am beyond grateful for you, which is why I want to give you a coffee or your favorite bevy on me. If you leave a 5-star rating and review for the Legal Paige Podcast on iTunes, screenshot the review and send it to me on Instagram at the Legal Paige. That's the Legal Paige. I will send you a Starbucks gift card from me. Just make sure to include your email in the DM. So again, send a screenshot of the review to me on Instagram at the Legal Paige, include your email address, and I will send you some Starbucks, because what better gift than caffeine for every business owner? Thanks so much for listening to this episode of the Legal Paige Podcast. See, I told you being legally legit isn't so scary. Be sure to visit thelegalpage.com for all show notes. And it would be super awesome if you could head over to iTunes and leave a review. Last but not least, don't forget to join my free Facebook group for unlimited legal and biz Q&A. Chat soon, Legal Pagers.